Okay, thank you for joining us today. My name is James Fogarty. I'm the Communications Director for A+ Schools. With me in the room is our Director of Research and Data Analysis, Amy Scott, and our Executive Director, Carrie Harris. Before we begin, I'd like to give a special thanks to Richard Rip Correlating from LRDC at the University of Pittsburgh for his technical assistance on the brief. We'd also like to thank Luann Zarinsky and Nina Sacco, principals who you'll see in the video that we'll be showing shortly, and all the teachers at their schools, Faison and Perry, who allowed us to hear how this new system of teacher evaluation is helping improve their work and help students at their schools. Amy Scott will provide a short presentation about the research we did on the Pittsburgh Public Schools Pittsburgh Federation of Teachers evaluation system. And after that presentation, she will answer any questions that you type into the comment section on the YouTube page. But before she begins that presentation about the research that we've done, I'd like for you to hear the voices of teachers, principals, and parents about what great teaching means to them.
A great teacher motivates, inspires, gets kids to go further than they ever thought they could go before.
Great teaching is also something that includes a teacher never ever giving up on her students.
What makes a great teacher is one that is approachable, that loves students unconditionally, regardless of their learning style, and that one who is willing to listen and learn from a parent.
A great teacher is someone who you know cares about your kids.
Of all the things schools provide, great teaching is the one that can most contribute to a student's academic success. Over the past 5 years, leaders from Pittsburgh Public Schools and the Pittsburgh Federation of Teachers have worked together to craft a system of teacher evaluation that provides teachers better feedback and helps individual teachers identify their strengths and weaknesses in the classroom.
6 years ago, I don't think we had an effective observation process. 6 years ago, you went in, did an observation, and signed a piece of paper saying the teacher was satisfactory. There wasn't much of a conversation about what was satisfactory about that teaching process.
One of the things that we're working on is doing school-wide instructional rounds. What those are basically teachers coming together to observe and then reflect on each other's practices so we can learn from each other.
It's not just the evaluation process that's important. It's more important to have a strong dialogue and to increase the teacher's understanding as well as increase my understanding. RISE does that wonderfully. It gives us such a great language to be able to speak to teachers with. And again, it's basically a standard. There are certain things that we need teachers to do more of and get better at so we can increase student achievement.
Our district has allowed us as teachers to really just embrace what it means to be a teacher and to be a professional and to feel like we're part of the process.
Classroom observations, known as RISE in Pittsburgh, account for a full 50% of a teacher's final evaluation in the new report card that teachers will be getting for the first time this August. As more teacher leaders and principals are getting into classrooms, teachers are becoming more accustomed to giving and receiving feedback that can be helpful.
It used to be you just had a classroom, your door was closed and nobody else was ever in there. Now, since we began the district implemented RISE, now we have kind of more people coming in and out of the classroom, and it's really a way to just become more comfortable with that.
Being able to open our doors and say, this is what I'm doing in my classroom is scary for some people, but I think it makes us much better individually and communally.
In addition to feedback from observations, teachers are looking at how they are supporting student academic growth by analyzing how students are doing on a variety of assessments. Teachers use test data to help students master concepts and skills they'll need to be successful academically.
A lot of times with the data, if you see students are performing lower than where you had anticipated, a lot of times that gives us the ability to have the conversation with the kids about what's going on. We have really worked hard to make sure that we're hitting every kid where they are. So we've collected a lot of data. We have looked at a lot of individual students, but then students as a group, and how can we group them, and how can we do our differentiated instruction, and how can we really help them to meet the targets that we've set for them.
It's all about trying to figure out, how do I meet the student on their level and help them understand what it is I need for them to understand.
The third and final lens teachers are using to better understand how students are learning in their classrooms are student surveys, called tripod surveys. These grade and age appropriate questionnaires capture student feedback on teacher practices that are highly correlated with academic success.
Students are honest. They are painfully honest sometimes. For example, last year our tripod survey as a school, the information I got back was not good. And it helped us plan what we were missing from the student perspective. It let us know we were going in the right direction. We were seeing the same things and the students were seeing the same things.
I think the kids really tell you what's great teaching. When I do an observation, I tend to look at the kids more than the teacher.
Children can easily tell you if the teacher likes them or doesn't, if the teacher's practice is good, if the classroom environment is one that the teacher can manage. So it's just important to have a conversation with your children.
Families and community members can play a critical role in supporting great teaching by helping teachers better understand their students and by supporting their school in any way they can, including getting their child to school on time every day, making sure homework gets done, and volunteering in the classroom.
We know our children. We know what their strengths are. We know how they learn well. And we have to communicate that with teachers, and we have to have some confidence in what we know, but also be willing to work with teachers who do know a lot about teaching and learning, a lot about the curriculum, a lot about pedagogy that parents may not know.
It's always a great thing to have more hands on deck when it comes to supporting students. And that could be students that are struggling as well as students that are advanced in their learning.
Spreading the word that academics is important. No matter where you go in the Homewood community, someone having a conversation about how's your schoolwork? What are your grades? Are you reading? Just giving books to kids to read, building libraries at home for our students, because that's the kind of support that we need.
We really could use a lot of support in getting kids to school. So I mean, if you're outside on your porch, I mean, moving kids to school and getting them, off the streets and into the school. That's one of the things that we can't do because we're here. We can't be out in the community getting kids to come to the school.
Observations, student growth data, and student feedback all help give a better picture of how effective a teacher is at getting a child to learn. While no evaluation system will be perfect, you can help students in Pittsburgh by joining A+ schools to advocate for teachers to continue to get strong multi-lens evaluations that are reliable, accurate, and that provide them feedback for improvement.
Give us 1 second as we change the audio input so that you can hear Amy a little better.
Okay, I'm just testing the microphone. Hi everyone, this is Amy Scott, Director of Research and Data Analysis at A+ Schools. I want to thank you again for joining us today as we move into the next part of our presentation about Pittsburgh's new teaching improvement system. We'll just take another couple of seconds to get that presentation up here on the screen. And again, thank you all for your patience in this process. Hi everyone, I'm just testing. This is Amy Scott, Director of Research and Data Analysis at A+ Schools. We're just making sure that this microphone is picking up my voice so that you can all hear me during this presentation. So again, thank you for your patience as we make sure that our technology is up and running. And thank you for sticking with us through this next short presentation about Pittsburgh's new teaching improvement system. Okay, this is our last test with this microphone, and then I'll get started on our short presentation about Pittsburgh's new teaching improvement system. For the next 20 minutes, we're going to share the following with you. The importance and timeliness of this system and what has come out in the past week and a half for teachers, what we at A+ Schools have learned about it. Then I'm going to get into the 3 components comprising teachers' final evaluations, and then I'll talk about how the system can improve and what families and community can do to support our teachers' growth and improvement so that ultimately our students can succeed. As I go along, if you have questions, please type them in the comments section. At the end, we'll have some time to respond to questions. Also, I want to remind you all that we're putting out a paper today that describes this system in much greater detail. So I encourage you to read that after this session, and hopefully it will help to answer more questions that you may have about details. This summer marks a critical moment in time. Just over a week ago, every teacher in the Pittsburgh Public Schools received a performance rating that combines scores from 3 different measures of effective teaching. Now, I'll get into those 3 measures a little bit later, but for now, what I want to emphasize is the importance of this moment in time for a number of reasons. First of all, this is the first time that teachers have seen their scores from the different measures combined into one final effectiveness rating. Secondly, the scores have no stakes attached for a full year. A new Pennsylvania state law called Act 82 requires that teachers be evaluated based on classroom observation and student outcomes beginning in the 2013-14 school year. Pittsburgh Public Schools is giving teachers a preview of their scores a full year in advance of when the evaluations will actually count, so that our teachers have ample time to understand what they're doing well and how they can improve. And lastly, it's a critical moment in time because for the first time, principals will now be able to access the individual results of teachers in their building so that they can work over the next year to provide supports that are specific to their teachers' needs. This system, which is intended to help teachers grow and improve, is extremely important because of the enormous impact that teachers make on their students' learning. Of all factors controlled by schools, teachers have the greatest impact on student achievement. In fact, the research group Mathematica, which has extensively studied Pittsburgh's teaching force, found that if a student is taught by a highly effective Pittsburgh teacher for several years in a row, that student could grow academically in ways that could reduce the current racial achievement gap that exists in our district. Knowing that we have teachers right here in Pittsburgh who could help our students grow that much is extremely promising, and we want to see more of our teachers reaching that level of effectiveness so that they can help their students. So what have we at A+ Schools learned about this system that gives us confidence in its potential for ensuring that every student has an effective teacher in the classroom every day? I will tell you. For starters, we know that the process for developing this system has been strong. It's been done intentionally over the past 5 years, led by a collaboration between the Pittsburgh Public Schools and the Pittsburgh Federation of Teachers, and it's involved feedback from principals and more than 400 teachers. Looking at the timeline on the right, you can see that 5 years ago, as Nina, the principal, described in the film that we just watched, that the existing evaluation system for teachers was not strong. In fact, very few teachers felt strongly that it was rigorous and revealed what was true about their practice. That year, a team of representatives from PPS, the PFT, teachers, and principals developed a new system of evaluation for teachers based on classroom observations, which is part of today's comprehensive system. The following year, the Pittsburgh Public Schools launched the Empowering Effective Teachers Plan, which A+ Schools supported along with nearly 2,000 community members. The plan was aimed at improving teacher effectiveness to ensure student success, and included the development of this comprehensive evaluation system that I'm talking to you about today. For the past 3 years, New measures of effective teaching were piloted with feedback from teachers, and confidential results of those measures have been shared with teachers. And then we come to this August with the release of the first comprehensive ratings combining those measures and giving teachers specific feedback for how to improve. So again, I'll reiterate that we feel this process for creating the system was strong, and it has led to a stronger system. Another important thing we've learned is that this system is designed to help teachers grow and improve. Again, there was intentional care taken with the partnership between the district and the teachers' union to ensure that teachers and principals were part of the design and improvement of the system. When teachers received their reports a week ago, they also received a list of suggested actions and supports that they could access based on their level of proficiency. These supports include professional development courses, workshops led by effective teachers, online videos aligned to the components on which teachers were evaluated, feedback from principals and peers, opportunities to observe other teachers, focused year-long growth projects, curriculum training, and more. So again, this system is focused on where it should be, which is on every teacher being able to improve and being able to access supports so that they can help their students learn. We also want to acknowledge that while a strong system of evaluation and improvement is critical to ensuring great teaching for all of our students, we believe any such system should be bolstered by improved conditions that support effective teaching, including high-quality teacher training and professional development programs so that our teachers are receiving supports that are specific to their need. Also, positive school learning environments that include positive behavioral supports for students and supports for building our students' social and emotional learning skills. Nurturing school leaders who create strong instructional cultures. And finally, systems that make teaching quality count when deciding who teaches and where they teach. Now I'm going to describe the multiple lenses of teaching for which teachers receive ratings. First of all, looking at the overall system, it includes 3 different lenses: classroom observations, student feedback, and student growth data. Act 82 in the Pennsylvania legislature mandates teacher evaluations to be based 50% on student outcomes and 50% on classroom observation measures. Pittsburgh Public Schools has proposed the breakdown on this pie chart based on feedback from teachers. You can see that the 50% classroom observations are there on the left. And then the student growth measures comprise another 35%, and student feedback makes up 15% of a teacher's final rating. This breakdown is actually slightly different from what Act 82 outlined, because Pittsburgh gave its teachers the opportunity to weigh in on the breakdown that they felt was most fair. And this breakdown is what teachers overwhelmingly supported, the breakdown that you see here in this pie chart. Again, this points to how intentional this process has been, with value placed on teachers' feedback. And now I'm going to get into the 3 different lenses. Classroom observations are the first lens through which teachers are evaluated in the new system. As I mentioned previously, for the past 3 years, teacher evaluation has been based solely on a classroom observation system called RISE, which stands for Research-Based Inclusive System of Evaluation. Again, RISE was developed by a leadership team that included teachers, principals, representatives from the PPS, and the PFT. RISE is now part of the new evaluation system that includes 2 other measures of effective teaching. Through RISE, teachers are formally observed at least once per year by their principal, and they're rated on up to 24 components within 4 domains of teaching. Teachers may also be observed by other administrators and teacher leaders in their building. So what does RISE tell us? RISE tells us that differences in the quality of teaching practice can be determined in a number of different areas based on research. RISE also tells us that on average, most teachers in our district are proficient or above based on their classroom observation ratings, and you can see that in this chart here. RISE also tells us how and where teachers can improve. So what this chart doesn't show is the smaller group of teachers who are identified as needing intensive support and were placed on an employee improvement plan. While some teachers on these plans ended up exiting the system, a good number of them made improvements and were able to get off their plan. Teachers and principals alike have told us that RISE is helpful. As Kylie, the teacher in the film that you just watched, said, more and more teachers are observing one another and reflecting on their practice, opening their doors to one another and helping each other understand how they can better serve the kids in their classrooms. And as Luann, the principal in the film that you just watched, said, RISE helps principals and teachers have productive conversations about teachers' practice. A second lens of teaching comprising the evaluation system is student feedback, obtained through the Tripod Student Survey. Student feedback is critical because no one knows more about what happens in a classroom than teachers and students. As Luann, the principal, said in the film, students are brutally honest, so we know we can gain important insight through their feedback. So what is Tripod? It's a grade and age-specific survey administered to students grade K to 12. It tells us how students perceive their teachers' practice in 7 different areas related to student engagement and learning. And those areas are care, control, clarify, challenge, captivate, confirm, and consolidate. If you'd like to learn more, there's a section in the back of our brief outlining the 7 C's in more detail. The Tripod survey has been administered to thousands of students in the US and abroad and was developed by Dr. Ronald Ferguson of Harvard University and Cambridge Education. Teachers in Pittsburgh have been receiving their individual Tripod student survey results confidentially for the past year. And what we do know is that on average, Pittsburgh public school teachers align with national benchmarks in terms of how their students are responding on their surveys. We also know that some principals, like Luann, whom you just saw in the film, have used their school-level Tripod results to align the programs to better engage their students. And we're very much encouraged by hearing from principals and teachers that they're taking their students' feedback into account. The final lens through which Pittsburgh understands its teachers' effectiveness is through their students' academic growth using value-added measures. As you can see by the graphic, a teacher's value added is defined as the contribution a teacher makes to his or her student's growth above the expected achievement for that student as predicted by a model. Pittsburgh Public Schools model was developed by Mathematica in a multi-year process, and it includes multiple years of student data, multiple student assessment tests, and it controls for student differences that might affect their projected achievement, such as special education status or family income level. Analysis of Pittsburgh teachers based on value-added models has shown that teachers' value-added scores correlate with scores on the other 2 measures, which means it's very likely that teaching practices that are being measured through classroom observation and student surveys are actually producing student growth. As you heard the teachers Harold and Katie talk about in the film, monitoring student data throughout the year allows teachers to meet students on their level to ensure that they're receiving instruction that's appropriate. So how does the system measure up? Well, overall, A+ Schools supports the system. Because it's based on multiple measures that have been developed carefully over time, the system promises a higher level of accuracy and reliability. And looking at the results in our teaching force, we see promising trends. For instance, in Pittsburgh's STAR schools, which are schools that fall in the top 25% of student growth in the state, we actually see a greater percentage of teachers in those schools who are rated as highly effective than we see in the non-STAR schools. Another trend that we noted in the previous slide is that RISE and Tripod results are correlating with value-added scores, again telling us that the teaching practices we're measuring through these 2 lenses are actually producing student growth. As much as we support this system, we don't want to lose sight of how important it is to continue advocating for it to improve. The system, above all else, must be reliable, accurate, and provide Pittsburgh teachers with meaningful feedback so that they can improve. What this means to us is that we encourage Pittsburgh Public Schools and the Pittsburgh Federation of Teachers to continue working together to seek out new ways to understand teaching and its effects on student learning, to search for meaningful measures that might be added to the system to make it more robust, and to make sure that any improvements to the system stay focused on providing teachers quality feedback for improvement. Ultimately, we hope this system continues to improve so that more students have great teachers like the kind that Tracy's describing in the box here on the side. Teachers who care about their kids and teachers who excite their children about the subject that they're learning and about being there in class. Finally, we've heard time and time and again from principals and teachers that they welcome support from families and community members. Parents and advocates have an important role to play in supporting effective teaching. Specifically, parents can be supportive by helping teachers understand their children and by having meaningful conversations with their children, teachers, and principals. In the back of our brief, there's a section of questions that parents can use to frame these conversations. And parents can also help by ensuring their children have good attendance, complete their homework on time, and by volunteering time at their child's school. Community advocates, too, can invest time in schools and support the recommendations that we outline in our brief. These recommendations include specific improvements to the teaching evaluation system, such as giving teachers their tripod results sooner and ensuring each teacher is evaluated by multiple observers. The recommendations also include how to make the system more useful to teachers and more beneficial to students. For example, ensuring that information gathered from RISE and Tripod are used in order to design meaningful professional development opportunities for teachers in the building and as individuals. I want to thank you all for joining us today. This concludes our short presentation. I also want to encourage you to visit this website here on the page in order to download a full PDF copy of our brief and to show your support for Pittsburgh's teacher improvement system. Ultimately, we want a reliable, accurate system that gives our teachers meaningful feedback to grow and help their students succeed. This presentation is going to remain here at this URL, so feel free to share it with others to watch later. Again, the full brief and the presentation will also be available on our website in about a half hour. And now we're going to take questions for a few minutes. If you don't get your question answered here today, you can feel free to email us, and our email addresses are all found in the staff section of our website. So if you have questions, you can write them in the comments section. That should be up there on the URL on the side. I'll hang on here for about 5 minutes. There is about a 1-minute delay on the video, so I want to give everyone time to hear the very end of the presentation and then to be able to type up some questions. So we will be here for about 5 more minutes beyond the time that I'm speaking right now to answer your questions.
So it looks like we do have a question. The question comes from Bram Reitbaum here in Pittsburgh, and the question is, how are talks going with the PFT to use these evaluations as a management tool for decision making? Carrie or Amy, would you like to take a stab at that?
Thanks for that question, Bram. You know that we imagine these conversations are going on between the Pittsburgh Public Schools and the PFT, but we don't really know at this time how they're intending to use the evaluations and these scores as decision-making tools. Right now, this is a no-stakes year for this for these scores, so we would imagine learning more as the evaluation system is fully put in place in the next 12 months.
If you have another question, someone out there, feel free to leave it in the comment section. We will get it and answer it as best we can. At this point, seeing that there are no other questions, what we can do is we'll be happy to respond to anyone else that may have one. There's another question. Hold on one second. At this point, we'll seems just to be a repeated comment. We will wrap up. We look forward to an ongoing dialogue with you, both folks who are here locally in Pittsburgh and those across the nation who are looking to Pittsburgh to see how this teaching evaluation system, how a system that was done collaboratively with the PFT and the PPS can work going forward. It will continue to be a bumpy ride, we're sure, but we also are hopeful that students will benefit from this work and that great teaching that's already happening in this district will be promoted to other teachers so that they can improve. Thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate it, and we look forward to speaking with you in the future. Take care.